Hi there, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on Weather Out West. I'm meteorologist Adam Claiborne, and here's what we're tracking for you this morning. What will trick-or-treating conditions be like in your neighborhood? We're looking rainy up north, but down south, we're looking at sun and temperatures in the 70s and 80s. Today, we're getting a first look at the cleanup efforts in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. And we're learning more about how catastrophic the storm really is. We're also checking in with a master arborist about a spooky phenomenon that may be happening in your own front yard. What you need to know about zombie trees. And the latest drought monitor was just released. Even though some wetter weather has moved in, we're still far from in the clear. Good morning and welcome to Weather Out West, the hour-long show where we forecast what's happening here in the western United States, weather-wise, that is. But first, let's talk about what's happening in Atlantic, where Hurricane Melissa is now on a collision course with Bermuda. After leaving much of the Caribbean devastated, all right. Jamaica is just beginning recovery from and restoration efforts. Officials in hard-hit areas are describing a beyond catastrophic level of damage. The death toll is at 30. Images from a helicopter over Jamaica from a Jamaican town showed damaged homes, torn off roofs, and debris littering an entire town. A CNN crew observed residents and military personnel pushing more than a dozen ambulances past storm debris in the town of Santa Cruz. The roads in the downtown area are covered with mud and silt, along with rubble. Several ambulances got stuck. Jamaica Public Service, an energy utility company, is conducting a damage assessment of the power grid. About 77% of the country is currently without electricity, according to a government spokesperson. Hurricane Melissa hit Jamaica as a Category 5 storm. That's the strongest it can be. Let's take a quick look at the different hurricane categories and the types of destruction they leave behind.
Hurricanes are categorized by their maximum sustained winds using the Saffir-Simpson scale of measurement, with ranges from Category 1 all the way up to Category 5. Tropical systems reach the title of hurricane when their maximum sustained winds surpass 74 miles per hour. At this level, a hurricane is a lower grade Category 1. Maximum winds within a Category 1 storm range from 75 miles per hour to 95 miles per hour. Typically, Category 1 storms can cause some damage. Now, from 96 to 110 miles per hour is a Category 2 hurricane. Extensive damage can occur with an impact from one of these storms. From 111 to 129 miles per hour, we are now at a Category 3 major hurricane. Devastating damage is expected from these. It only gets more intense from here. 130 to 156 miles per hour is a major Category 4 hurricane. These disastrous storms can bring catastrophic damage. If maximum sustained winds are measured above 157 miles per hour, then we get in the range of the Saffir-Simpson scale of a major Category 5 hurricane. As you can imagine, with winds that strong, the damage would be catastrophic.
All right, we're going to get into your forecast now here for the western United States, and we're going to start in Seattle, where it looks like Thursday might stay dry, but rain is in the forecast heading into Halloween. Meteorologist Ashley Ruiz has the latest.
Hey there, happy Thursday from Seattle. I'm King 5 meteorologist Ashley Ruiz with your forecast on this Halloween Eve, one day away, and today going to be the driest day over the next couple of days. Take advantage of the pleasant autumn weather. Yes, we're going to have filtered sunshine, a mix with cloud sun with temperatures in the 50s, but we are going to have increasing rain on Halloween and into Saturday. And friendly reminder, don't forget daylight saving time comes to an end on Sunday. Our sunset here in Seattle on Sunday, 4:49 p.m. Let's talk about the wet weather up ahead. We have a low spinning over the Gulf of Alaska, and it's going to send a couple of fronts over the area. With that being said, a warm front will move in, and that's going to send a lot of warm, moist air over the area, and that's going to bring our snow levels up to about 8,000 to 9,000 feet. With that being said, we're going to have heavy rain over the mountains. That will lead to some of that snow melt that we saw last weekend, and that could lead to some sharp river rises. While we're not expecting major river flooding, it will be something we have to watch out for, especially the North Cascades and the Olympics. But let's talk about that Halloween forecast, because we all want to know what we're expecting here in Western Washington. Increasing rain, as I mentioned, temperatures are going to be in the 50s. Now, I was combing through some old data all the way back to the 40s and 50s here in Western Washington, and I wanted to see on average what our percent of rain is for Halloween. And again, this goes back to the 40s and 50s, and at least measurable rain, which is 1/100th of an inch or greater. Seattle, 55% of our Halloweens, we had measurable rain, even if it was just a little bit. Bellingham, 58, and then closer to the coast, where it tends to be wetter, 66% of Halloweens had measurable rainfall. And so tomorrow, Halloween, we're going to have at least some measurable rainfall, with the heaviest rain likely coming Friday night and into Saturday. Into Saturday, we're going to kick things off with widespread heavy rain, moderate to heavy rain, switching the showers, and we'll likely have gusty winds. Next week, we'll have a couple of more systems rolling through. But this morning, it's been so beautiful, a little spooky at times, but we have sunshine breaking out over the area. And I wanted to show you our Columbia Center Tower Cam here in Seattle, looking toward Mount Rainier, and just beautiful with the low clouds and some fog just streaming over the area. We're going to have variably cloudy skies today, but a very weak ridge going to keep things on the quiet side for today, with temperatures in the 50s, cooler tomorrow with that increasing rain. So Friday and Saturday, heavy rain at times, on average 1/2 of an inch, maybe up to 1.5 inches for Puget Sound. Going to be gusty for northern areas on Friday, but gusty for all on Saturday. And as I mentioned, the mountain rain, we'll have to watch out for some of those river rises. But again, not expecting major widespread river flooding. Futurecast, the latest run, shows a band of showers spreading over the area with that warm front moving in into the afternoon. Now, the Futurecast, this a particular model, this is our in-house model, brings a break in the rain before we get another wave of rain Friday night. Other models, not so much, still showing all that rain lingering, but all of the models in general are showing some rounds of widespread heavy rain, some moderate pockets here and there into Friday night and into Saturday, and we'll have to watch out again for some of that heavier rain. Through Friday night and into Saturday, you see a quick 1/10 of an inch up to maybe 1/2 of an inch, but the heaviest rain once again will come Friday night and into Saturday. But the drier day will be Sunday, with more rain moving in late Monday, showers and sun breaks on Tuesday, with another system moving in on Wednesday.
All right, sounds like we're going to have to make plans for the rain heading into tomorrow for Halloween, and probably having some heavier coats, or maybe the rain jacket for those costumes with the kids. All right, so heading down to Portland, forecast is looking pretty similar. Another pretty nice day Thursday, dry and chilly to start, and then that rain does look to return heading during more of those trick-or-treating hours. Meteorologist Rod Hill has the latest.
Oh, if only today were a Halloween in Portland. Of course it's not. I say that because we have a dry forecast today, but an increasing likelihood that this guy right here, this weather system, will now push rain in for the evening hours. We've been holding out some hope that the main rain band tomorrow evening between 6 and 9, trick-or-treat time, would stay away from Portland, and maybe we just have some light showers ahead of it. But now, as I'll show you in a moment, it looks like the main rain band will be moving in early evening. So if that's the case, obviously that would be steady rain tomorrow night. Nothing unusual for us, you know, but it means we're going to be seeing lots of our little ones out there in ponchos probably over the costumes. This first batch of cloudiness, no rain or moisture here. This is simply a batch of passing mid to high level clouds that will drift across all of Oregon today. So we'll just end up being kind of partly sunny with filtered sun. Really a nice day overall. Still some decent blue this morning early up at Timberline. Obviously the parking lot nice and clean. And by the way, that incoming moisture tomorrow into tomorrow night and Saturday will be all rain at Timberline. In fact, it could be all rain as high as 8,000 feet. The lodge is at 6,000 feet. Here's a look at the passing mid to high level cloudiness coming in off the Pacific from our Vancouver, the Springs at the waterfront camera along the Columbia River. That's Mount Hood, and we're already seeing these clouds increase. And again, it'll be kind of a filtered sunshine day. Another shot of just the beautiful fall colors. I've just been in love with this camera this fall. Starting to get up just over the hump of the peak of autumn color here in our area. As we look at our state capitol and the mid to high level clouds up top, Futurecast again shows these clouds passing across our area today. And then the next batch of clouds in here for tomorrow morning. Now this is noon tomorrow, all dry up and down I-5. It's always looked that way in the morning. It still looks that way. But we've got rain potentially as soon as noon in Astoria. And then this is what I'm talking about. This is 6 p.m. Yesterday, this weather model showed this rain band along the coast and maybe into Longview, and Portland would be seeing maybe a little bit of light rain out ahead of it. But now, as I mentioned, here we are, Salem, Portland, up into Vancouver, solid, steady rain in the rain band during the 6 to 9 trick-or-treat hours. And then it's really pretty wet, including heavy rain rates at times overnight through Saturday morning, and then at some point Saturday afternoon, this will push out and will start to break into scattered showers. So overall, Saturday still looks to be pretty wet, at least all morning and at least into the afternoon hours. There's the scattered shower pattern that follows into Sunday. Although Sunday's looking pretty quiet. A scattered shower threat, but overall I think a day that's pretty nice. Weather models say we could get an inch of rain here in Portland. At least a half of an inch will fall. And the models say 1 to maybe even 2 along parts of the coast. So that's what's coming up. Again, today it's all dry, just filtered sun, and statewide high temperatures generally in the 50s to some areas getting up to 60. I think Portland could get up to 60. And then tomorrow we talked about the clouds, the rain late day through the evening, 58. Rain all night into Saturday morning. At some point in the afternoon, breaks into scattered showers. Sunday could very well be mainly dry. I just feel like there's a scattered shower threat, especially in the morning. Then we get a dry break Sunday night, Monday morning, but then Monday afternoon, the next batch of rain arrives. And from that point forward, it looks pretty wet all the way into Thursday.
Here comes the rain, and it might impact areas farther east too, including Spokane. We're going to have the forecast from there, and also we're going to talk about in just a few minutes daylight saving time. It's ending. We're going to gain that hour back again as we head on into the upcoming weekend. We'll have more on that after the break. Welcome back. After celebrating Halloween this weekend, most Americans will get an extra hour of sleep. Daylight saving time ends on Sunday, and our clocks will fall back 1 hour. The time change also means our days will be shorter and nights will be longer as the official start date of winter gets closer. Daylight saving time for most of the United States and many other countries begins in March when our clocks skip forward 1 hour. It ends on the first Sunday in November. The practice began in Europe and the U.S. during World War I to save fuel and power. In the U.S., states are not required by law to fall back or spring forward. Hawaii, most of Arizona, and some territories in the Pacific and Caribbean do not observe daylight saving time. Now it's going to be time to take a look at our forecasts here in Washington, where we do observe daylight saving time, and we do have some fog around to start off this morning in a couple of spots. Could be some around again heading on into tomorrow morning as well, but there is looking like there is going to be some rain as we get closer to the latter part of tomorrow night, which means maybe a dry Halloween over that way for Spokane. Meteorologist Thomas Patrick has the latest.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington. It is Halloween Eve, and it's starting to look a bit spooky outside on account of the fog. The fog has been really bad over Spokane specifically, and nowhere else in the inland Northwest. Hence is our fog forecasting. It can be a fickle and patchy thing. It does look like it's going to be likely not only today, Thursday, but on Halloween itself as well. So we track morning fog for Halloween. Thankfully, rain unlikely for Halloween and trick-or-treating itself, holding off just barely into Saturday morning. But it will be a close call for some. Again, this is downtown Spokane at Riverfront Park. You can barely see the clock tower in the foreground. You can't even see the pavilion at all, and our camera is just across the street from the park. So this is well less than a quarter-mile visibility, and it has looked like this all throughout Spokane County for the most part. Now that we've gotten just past sunrise as of recording this, looks like that fog just lifting by maybe 50 or 100 feet above I-90 might just start to make a difference in terms of visibility on these roadways. This is I-90 at Sprague, in between Spokane and Spokane Valley. You can see a handful of cars in the foreground, but not much in the distance here as the fog has been pretty bad. Meanwhile, in North Idaho, which was also under a dense fog advisory, faring a bit better. Yeah, you can see the cloud cover hanging in the trees, maybe that 100 feet above our heads, though the road visibility looks pretty nice on that particular traffic camera. Because of the fog specifically over Spokane County, actually kept our temperatures just a couple degrees colder, even compared to some surrounding areas. 51 Coeur d'Alene, 53 Pullman, but just 49 in Spokane today, which is just about average for us. Average is 50 for Spokane today. It does drop to 49 for Halloween exactly on the last day of the month. So we're average temperature-wise, and the fog is just going to become more and more common as we head deeper into the fall and eventually the winter season. To a bit of my dismay. But it is what it is for the inland Northwest. This is the next storm system. Beautiful swirl in the clouds over the North Pacific. That low pressure center and anchor will find a spot south of Alaska, and the cold front and jet stream attached to it going to help to guide a lot of moisture at the Pacific Northwest. That will be aimed at eastern Washington on Saturday. It'll be more western Washington and Seattle on Friday. So a close call and a big difference for the trick-or-treaters and the kids and the parents on Friday evening. So we'll take you to Future Tracker. This is 3 p.m. Friday afternoon. Kids getting out of school at around this time. Maybe just the ever so slightly small chance for a sprinkle heading into trick-or-treat, though most of eastern Washington ends up dry. Different story on Saturday as that rain comes blasting in first thing in the morning. So a close call, and one that we've been watching and monitoring extremely closely, especially in terms of timing. But it looks unlikely for any rain trick-or-treating in Spokane. That rain should hold off into Saturday, which ends up being our warmest day.
Good news for all the kids, and I guess everybody heading out Friday night there in Spokane. And it probably is looking like it's going to be a dry forecast as you head farther south and east into Idaho. Boise. Forecast as we head on into Halloween continues to be probably cool, but yet fairly pleasant and quiet. Not expecting any sort of really heavy rain yet until we get maybe into the latter part of the weekend. And even then, we're talking maybe across the mountains. And for those elevations above 9,000 feet, we could be talking about snow. Hector Mendoza has the details in your forecast.
Well, a pretty nice day overall yesterday with temperatures reaching the mid-50s here in Boise, getting near 60 for some spots as we look at Ontario and into Mountain Home. And then as we look at other spots that we looked at here for the Jerome and Twin Falls area through the Magic Valley, we saw those low to upper 50s as well. And then temperatures really didn't drop below 50 here across southwest Idaho as we look at the mountain spots. And today, not that much different. Expecting the mid-50s again for today here in Boise. That's pretty much what we're expecting across the Treasure Valley. And then those temperatures into those low 50s through the mountains and down in through the Magic Valley, as 52 degrees is the expected high for both Jerome and for Twin Falls. But as we look on ahead and through tomorrow, as we have Halloween coming along, we know we have a lot of folks that are going to be trick-or-treating. These are the temperatures we're expecting here through Friday, as things are going to stay pretty quiet all the way through the wrap-up of the work week. We're going to see those clouds continue on and off here as we head on closer in through Friday, and those light winds will continue. But again, we see pretty on average temperatures that come come along for tomorrow afternoon. But what does it look like a little bit after, as we're going to start to trick or treat, and a lot of folks are going to be out till about 8, 9, even 10 o'clock at night. So as we look at some of these temperatures here, we're going to start to dip down into those low 50s as we get towards 8 o'clock. Then we're going to dip down into the upper 40s as we head towards 10 o'clock. So again, maybe adding a couple layers to that costume here as we get closer in through Friday, as we are going to anticipate some of those cooler temperatures. But how does it fare on par to some of the warmest, coldest, wettest, and snowiest we've seen in terms of Halloween here in Boise? 2012 was the warmest, and those temperatures reached the mid 70s. Then in 2002, the coldest dipped down into the teens, down at 13 degrees. We're not expecting much moisture, but back in 1896, those conditions there saw almost getting closer to about an inch of precipitation, and then about an inch of some of those snowier conditions that we saw back in 1971. But again, we're expecting to stay dry and just kind of on average here for our Halloween there as we get closer in through Friday. But as a reminder, we do have daylight savings time that ends, and so that's going to end on Sunday, November 2nd, and then we're going to continue to see and roll back those clocks there about an hour. So some of those sunrise times are going to be around 7:22 in the morning, sunset times around 5:30, and that's going to continue at least into the next week or so, and we're expecting to see less and less of that daylight as we're getting closer in through December, and that's when we're anticipating to start to see it pick back up again as we get on into the following year. But this is what we're going to see this weekend, as temperatures are into the mid 50s here for today, picking back up into the mid 60s on into Saturday, staying into the 60s but dropping down about 4 to 5 degrees in through Sunday afternoon. Morning temperatures will warm up into the mid 40s, and then we're expecting to stick around some of those low to mid 60s as we head on into the next couple of days. But as we look on into Saturday, it's going to be a beautiful day, as we do have Boise State facing off against Fresno State in the milk can game. 59 degrees for that kickoff at 1:30. And then again, as we look at our 7-day forecast, we are going to start to see those temperatures warm up. But then after Sunday, we stay into those low 60s there in through Monday, and then we're going to continue to climb up just a little bit and stick around those mid 60s through the middle of the week. And then our next chance for some precipitation comes along, although it's still pretty low. We're going to see a little bit more clouds and a chance of showers there as we head into Wednesday.
Okay, coming up in the next few minutes, when was the last time you checked the health of your trees in your yard? A master arborist tells us about the hidden danger you should be thinking about this time of the year when we come back. Welcome back. Halloween is tomorrow, but that's not the only spooky thing happening right now. Denver's Byron Reed talks with a master arborist about zombie trees. Here's what you should know about the hidden danger in your own yard and why it's especially important to take action right now.
There's an unsuspecting danger lurking this time of year.
People have kind of a preemptive fear.
One that makes Michael Sundberg a little anxious.
I think it's a little bit of procrastination, and myself included, at my own yard.
Sundberg is a board-certified master arborist at Davey Tree Expert Company, a service that's been on the lookout.
Just because a lot of the things might not be obvious to like the basic homeowner eye, you know, if it's somebody that's not trained in trees.
He says October is a time when people start seeing something strange in their yards.
There's some cracking, and you can have just branches that are broken, but they're still connected to the trees. So yeah, this one's a lot more obvious, but you have all this damaged trunk tissue.
They're hunting down the city's zombie trees, trees with hidden damage after a severe storm or drought.
A zombie tree is probably what I would define as a tree with hidden defects that people don't know about. I guess if I were to try to relate it to Halloween in the movies, it would be a tree that, you know, was bit. Nobody knows it's a problem yet, and then later on it kind of rears its ugly head.
Problems that Sundberg says might have been caused by our unusual weather.
I think our weather is the wackiest part of Colorado. If it's not a drought, we're going to, have a sudden freeze, or we'll have a big temperature swing, and the trees are really, they don't like the big fast changes.
Some trees might be dying from the inside out, but he says there's things you can do early to prevent damage before it happens.
I think the first thing is just to get an expert to look at your trees, get some eyes on it. There's always free consultations to get trees checked out, see if there's anything that needs to be done with them, and then get it addressed.
Sundberg hopes these tips will get homeowners ready for the spring.
Winter months for Colorado, I mean, the winter watering is huge.
To help prevent getting phone calls next year about things going bump in the night.
There's not many like magic fixes for trees. A lot of it's just they need food and they need water. They need a good environment to grow in. So you're just trying to keep them in good shape.
For next. I'm Byron Reed.
From Denver's Byron Reed to Denver's forecast, we're going to take a look at what's happening for your Halloween there in the Mile High State when we get back. Thank you for sticking with us here on Weather Out West. We continue our forecast now in Denver, where it looks like the forecast is trending to be pretty quiet here as we head over the next few days, including your Halloween. Now, it's chilly and cool for now, but there is a warm up on the way. Meteorologist Kathy Sabin and Kate LaSalle have the details.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin. We have seen an interesting week of weather. We had a storm that brought mountain snow and then brought a sky that looked very spring-like, along with rain and even some pea-sized hail to kick off the week. But now, high pressure is coming in from the west, and that will keep several areas of low pressure north and east of us, traveling through the Midwest into the Northeast, where there will be the greatest travel impacts. For Colorado, the Southwest, and the West Coast, relatively quiet and dry. This is the next system approaching Colorado with those high, thin cirrus clouds kind of overrunning the ridge. But this system will stay north of us, complements of that building ridge of high pressure. A lot of water from Memphis to St. Louis into Atlanta. Expect major travel delays with all of this water across portions of the Tennessee River Valley and Carolinas. We have one storm to our east, another one coming our way from the west, but it'll be at least 72 hours before we have the impact of any impending weather changes. And you'll notice on Futurecasts, we're hard pressed to see much in the way of even high cloud cover. And so with fair skies and light winds, the overnight lows will be chilly, but not in the lower 20s like we saw earlier in the morning. So we'll jump into the 40s by 8 a.m., mid 50s by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Average high is 60. We'll come close to that number on Thursday, a smidge cooler Friday, a wonderful weekend. Look at 70s on Sunday. And then a warm, dry weather trend will carry us into the first full week of November. And November is one of our snowier months. Around here, everybody's trying to figure out how to dress for Halloween. In Colorado, that can always be a challenge because you can have rain, snow, sleet, dark of night, and cold temperatures. But not this year. It will be cool and dry with temperatures in the upper 40s at 5 o'clock, dropping into the upper 30s and lower 40s when all the ghouls and goblins head back indoors with all their loot around 9 o'clock.
I'm 9 News Weather Impact Team's Katie LaSalle. We are approaching Halloween 2025 for Friday. This Thursday is going to be clear and dry, but slightly cooler air arrives for the Denver area, at least for tomorrow. Our average high on October 31st is 57. We're expecting highs only around 50 degrees. So that does mean some slightly chillier temperatures for trick-or-treaters out and about. We'll drop down to the upper 40s as the sun sets and then high 30s by 9 o'clock. It's all because we have some areas of low pressure that are impacting northeastern Colorado. The mountains, though, will actually be slightly warmer than the Denver metro area tomorrow. That's all ahead of our next ridge of high pressure building back in across the west coast and here for Colorado. Looking at those temperatures, high 50s for Thursday. Tomorrow it is going to be cooler at 51, but then a nice warm up as that ridge builds in. It's also the end of daylight saving time, and that is what I want to talk about now. As we fall back this year, it is the end of daylight saving, so that means on early Sunday morning at 2 a.m. you want to shift those clocks back an hour. That means we get an extra hour of sleep, but it will be getting darker earlier, so impacting our circadian rhythm. The sun will be setting earlier and earlier. We saw our last 6 p.m. sunset yesterday on October 29th. Now our next 6 p.m. or later sunset will not occur until March 9th. We're losing 2 minutes and 20 seconds of daylight per day. And our last 5 p.m. or later sunset, because of the time change, that will occur on Saturday. So hopefully you can just enjoy this last little bit of earlier or later sunsets before we see that time change, and enjoy the 70s though. It's going to be a very mild and relatively dry start to the month of November.
I know Halloween is tomorrow and we haven't made it to Thanksgiving yet, but we're approaching the holiday season. The U.S. Capitol Christmas tree has started its journey to Washington, D.C. The 53-foot red fir named Silver Bell will make stops at parades, festivals, and community gatherings across Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kentucky before arriving on the west lawn of the U.S. Capitol. The tour is all about celebrating the spirit of the Silver State, showcasing Nevada's stunning natural landscapes and community spirit. Now, Arizona was one of those states that were mentioned there and should be making a stop, and one of the states that are still pretty quiet here as we head on into Halloween tomorrow. A lot of clear skies, a lot of sunshine, the daytime highs maybe slightly above normal, and the overnight lows slightly cooler than normal. Could even be some 90s on the way as we start off November. Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries has the latest.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries. We'll look at your weather out west, where we're seeing a battle of two extremes. By the afternoon hours, our temperatures are getting awfully close to record territory. Meantime, in the morning, because it's so clear, it is so dry, we still have sub-freezing air in place. Check this out. This morning through about 9 a.m., we've got a freeze warning for areas east of Tucson. So certainly this is the higher elevations, but I'm talking about numbers between about 30 to 34 degrees to start out your Thursday. Now, yesterday we had a similar situation, but this one, it was in the northern tier of the state. Now, as soon as we start warming up, we warm up rapidly. I mean, take a look at some of these numbers. The record for Phoenix today, 94 degrees. We are looking for highs right at about 90. I've got 93 today in Yuma, 92 in Parker, 83 in Kingman, 65 in Flagstaff, 78 in Sedona, and right about 80 degrees in Globe. So basically, not a cloud in sight across State 48 as we are under the gun of high pressure. That high is going to start to weaken slightly, though. As you can see, by tomorrow morning, we're going to get these thin clouds. None of these clouds are bringing in any kind of rain, and they're not associated with an area of low pressure. So as you can see here, there's the different pressure readings. It doesn't look like those bars are getting close together, so wind not in the works for us, even though we'll get some of these thin clouds basically skirting across the sky Friday, but stay nice and clear on Saturday. Now, the impact we're waiting for, because by the middle part of next week, it does look like we've got some cooler air coming our direction. Until that time, here's those thin clouds I was talking about for tomorrow, but temperature-wise, man alive, we are going to stay the course in this above normal status to close out October and welcome in November, yes, with daytime highs at about 90 degrees, which is, yeah, a little bit late in the season for us. Typically, we close out those 90s by the end of October, but they're going to kind of drizzle on over into November, at least this year. So today, the call, abundant sunshine. Temperatures around the valley look like this. I've got 89 in Chandler, 88 for Scottsdale, 89 for Surprise, 90 in Goodyear, and right about 89 today in Glendale. As far as where we typically are, 84 degrees. So certainly we are well above that. 94 is the record. I don't think we're going to beat it, but we're certainly closer to our record territory than we are our normal range. And I mean, this is in line with something we've been dealing with all week long. Yesterday, we got up to about 91 degrees. Now, yesterday, we also had some strong winds. It was sunny, it was warm, it was breezy. This morning, we're still seeing a little bit of wind in the southeast corner of the state. But then as I put this in motion, you can see by the afternoon hours, everybody's going to be pretty much under 10 miles an hour and very calm conditions for tomorrow. So the wind is gone, but that warm air is here to stay. And because it is so dry, at least our overnight conditions here in the valley giving us a nice break. So open up those windows and enjoy it. Tonight, we're dropping down to about 62 degrees. But as we look forward, next 7 days, Flagstaff, your overnight lows continue to be in the 30s. Daytime highs will be climbing into the upper 60s for the weekend. And here in the Valley of the Sun, yep, we're earning our name this week as daytime highs stay in the upper 80s and low 90s.
All right, we're going to head on over to the state of California and check your forecast in San Diego when we get back. So keep it here. Welcome back. So now it's time to talk about the forecast in San Diego, where conditions will be more dry and breezy across the area, but fairly nice still. A pretty decent forecast ahead for Halloween. Meteorologist Vanessa Paz has your forecast.
Well, happy Thursday or Halloween Eve from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. We were very warm yesterday. In fact, so hot across so many of our cities that we broke plenty of records. As we go ahead and pull them up, we easily beat old records set back in even the 1920s to as early as 2008 for areas like Vista as well as Escondido. Yesterday, we hit a high of mid-90s for Vista as well as Chula Vista. We soared close to 100 degrees in Escondido. That was one of our warmer spots inland. We didn't quite top out in that century degree mark, but it was still very warm. And we almost beat a record for areas like Alpine as well as Campo, tying their old records of 93 and 90. All right, shout out to Don Viadoc for sending in this gorgeous photo of a hummingbird. Here are your headlines as we finish off the month of October and the work week. Today will be about 5 to 10 degrees cooler this afternoon. We're looking at dry and breezy conditions continuing to linger. So fire danger, just a reminder, will be elevated for anyone who's spending time outside. And looking ahead to Halloween, it's going to be nice and fairly mild. So here's what's on tap across the board for Thursday afternoon. We'll top out close to 90 degrees, still very warm, especially for those areas away from the coast. For the coastal spots, we'll drop back into the 70s. A lot of areas touched into the low 80s yesterday. We'll see a lot more high to mid 70s in the mix later on this afternoon across our coastal and beach neighborhoods. The ridge eventually starts to break down, so does that easterly flow, and that will allow for some subtle cooling as we enter the end of October and say hello to a new month. Our winds are going to transition. Notice how they're coming still out of the east later on this afternoon, the northeast. As I fast forward this, pause it tomorrow afternoon. We then have the return of the onshore flow, winds out of the west. So that's going to bring in some cooler air along with that marine layer, returning especially towards those evening and morning hours. Here's what your overnight lows look like across our microclimates. It still will be brisk, especially for interior parts of the county. And here's what I'm forecasting for your Halloween highs. Will be a lot cooler, a lot more low 80s in the picture inland than what we're experiencing today and what we experienced yesterday. The coastal areas, a lot of us will drop down, plummeting to the low 70s. And it's never too early to talk about your trick-or-treat forecast. Here's what we can expect around 7 o'clock. That's when I assume that most kids and families go trick-or-treating. The coastal areas will drop down to the mid 60s by then. We're talking about mild conditions inland, low 60s in the mountains where it will be breezy and will be spooky warm around the 7 o'clock hour for our desert communities. Here's what's in store over the next 7 days along the coast and inland areas. Will be in the low 70s all the way through Monday. Tuesday and Wednesday is when it will finally start feeling like fall. And I assure you, even though it's still warm during the day, temperatures will come crashing down when it comes to the evening and morning hours for the next 7 days. The inland areas will touch highs close to 90 degrees tomorrow. Tomorrow being the warmest day of the next 7. And then we'll see about a 7-degree drop in daytime highs come Saturday and Sunday. The mountain areas, not a lot of relief until we get to the weekend. So we'll go from the 80s to the upper 70s on Saturday and Sunday for the mountain areas. High or low 80s rather on Monday, and then mid to high 70s on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, those are looking like the coolest days across our microclimates. So we do have relief on the way. We just got to be patient, wait until the middle of next week to get there.
Time to head farther north in California to Sacramento, where it has been mild and unseasonably warm here for the past few days, and we probably will keep that into your Halloween and through the weekend. Could be a chance of showers, though, as we head on into next week. Meteorologist Monica Woods has your forecast.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods, and we are tracking an unseasonably mild end to our work and school week. Our regional headlines include for the coast, sunny skies continuing, warm fall temperatures for the valley, more fall color for the foothills, which is quickly starting to migrate down the hill into the valley, and mild temperatures for the most part in the Sierra. Now we're seeing above average temperatures continue into the end of the work week, which of course is Halloween, and then into the weekend where we get an extra hour of this gorgeous weather because we fall back. Heading into early next week, we start to see some of those temperatures coming down, especially through Northern California, kind of above north of I-80 as a weather system starts to approach, giving us kind of our first chance of some rain. Speaking of rain, statewide precipitation. Keep in mind our new water year began earlier this month on October 1st. It runs all the way through next year, September 30th. And we're off to a decent start. We haven't had a huge whopper of a storm come through yet, but in terms of our precipitation departure from normal, most of us are slightly above average. And we start to see more and more of those weather systems impacting California deeper into the season, say December, January, and February, where we get our biggest precipitation totals statistically. Our reservoir supply levels, now that really is a telltale sign of how much water we'll have into the drier part of the year. We're just coming off of that driest part of the year, and things are looking still very good. Our biggest reservoir in the state, Shasta, 56% full and still over 100% of average. Oroville, our second biggest reservoir, is still slightly over 100% of average and 54% full. Heading into the Central Sierra, things also equally as good, anywhere from about 50 to 75% full and over 100% of average. Some of these reservoirs, by the way, are starting to use something new to calculate how much water they can keep in and how much they have to let out. That's called forecast-informed reservoir operations. More and more of these reservoirs are starting to dig into better forecasting models to help know how much to keep in and how much to let out based on the risk of flood downstream. High resolution futurecast, not much going on here for our Thursday morning. We pick up more clouds coming in for the afternoon. No rain to speak of, with those north winds still limiting the amount of low cloudiness and fog along the coast. We'll pick up a little bit of that heading into the weekend, but it's still going to be dry and unseasonably warm. Highs for our Thursday in the 60s, almost 70 for the Tahoe Basin. We're in the 70s through the foothills. As we move our way southward here through the Central Sierra, Yosemite up to 72. We've seen snow in the higher elevations, and some of that still kind of holding on with those overnight lows in the 30s and 40s, but not much snow to talk about here in the short-term forecast. We're near 80 through parts of the central San Joaquin Valley. And for the Central Coast, also limited low cloudiness and fog. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds and highs in the 60s for the Monterey Bay Peninsula, 75 for Big Sur, near 80 for San Luis Obispo, and 80s inland as well. We'll see that play out through much of the Bay Area. 60s along the coast as we head inland. We're in the 70s along the northwest coast. Beautiful conditions here, mix of sun and clouds, a little cool, 50s. By the time we get to the northern part of the valley, we're in the 70s, and we'll see that in the capital region with overnight lows quite crisp. But we're in the upper 40s to right around 50. Not much in the way of precipitation here all the way through our 5-day forecast, but we will start to see some of that cooler weather come into play by the time we get to Monday. Of course, we've got Election Day here on Tuesday for California. A high of 73. Next chance for rain coming in on Wednesday.
All right, and she mentioned rain, and rain is good for busting droughts. And we've been noticing some showers here over the past couple of weeks, and we just got the latest drought monitor released this morning. We're going to let you know what that shows us when we get back. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, latest drought monitor was just released this morning. Now, I did want to update you and say that we usually get the information on Tuesday that goes into the drought monitor, so it doesn't really take into account all the rain that we've seen either late Tuesday night, or throughout the day on Wednesday. But this is what we saw last week. I want to kind of show you a comparison between the two. And we saw conditions that were fairly dry across a lot of the Pacific Northwest, where we are dealing with a bit more of that drought here, and for areas such as Seattle and around Portland, over towards Spokane. Check out the browns, the mustard color, even the reds. Now, this is last week. This is what we saw this week. And you can see there have been some changes. I'm about to change it for you right now. Then you can see just slight changes, but there are changes. We see a little less of that brown and mustard color here across parts of the Cascades, and a little less of that red as well. Farther east for us in Spokane, some slight changes there, seeing a little less of that severe drought, a little patch of moderate drought popping up there, and a little more abnormally dry drought popping into those locations. Now, big picture, as you can look across the nation and across this part of the country, is that areas farther south around Arizona, getting closer to I would say up across Boise, we're still dealing with a decent amount of drought. For those of us in Northern California, we are doing really well as far as what type of moisture we should have in our soil for this time of the year. So we're going to notice some rain in the forecast, but a lot of it's going to be focused farther towards the north and to the west. Now, here's radar. Things not active at all here across the western U.S. We have a quiet day ahead here as we head on into Thursday afternoon. But the big picture is that area of low pressure that's spinning in the Gulf of Alaska, that's going to be heading our way, and that's going to help to bring in the round of rain that we're expecting for areas across the Pacific Northwest. So Seattle and Portland expecting to have a wet Halloween. That's why we have that in the forecast. While the rainfall amounts there, it could be up near, if not over 3 inches in some spots. Higher terrain can pick up closer to 5 inches in some locations. And for areas across Northern California, we talked about that rain coming back next week. Looks like that blue color that you see, the light blue color, could be closer to about maybe an inch of rain ahead as we head on into the next few days. This is actually a forecast for the next week or so. So looking like we're definitely going to focus a lot of the rain across more the northwest. That does include areas farther to the east as far as Boise is concerned. You can see most of that rain is going to be generally near and just to your north, while Denver and out towards the south around San Diego and Arizona. We talked about the quiet conditions there. Looks like we're going to see more of that as well. All right, everyone. Well, we're expecting to have a pretty wet forecast in some spots tomorrow for Halloween. If you're across more of the northwest, prepare for the rain. While if you're farther to the south, looks like things will be quiet. Enjoy your Halloween. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.